everyone. I'm going to wait until there's a few people in before I begin. How you been, young Wayne?
Very busy.
Very dizzy or very busy?
Very busy decorating and writing a presentation for May for a talk I'm doing in May on paranormal and UFOs.
See, you're a busy bee. You've got a bit busier life than I. Right, there's 7 in the chat. Hi guys. Hi Stephanie. Hi. Rest in peace. Hi Eric even. So I'm just going to share it quickly, guys, and then we will begin because tonight is going to be a really sad one. And I wanted to say a big thank you to the groups who usually don't share out on a Monday, don't share out within the Monday. I want to thank you guys for letting me share because this really does mean so much to me, more than what you guys know. So I'll quickly just share this out and then we'll begin. See, when you're doing the sharing, you're trying to make sure you don't double share. It's like one of those ones. I don't know how many times I've done it in a group where I've shared and I've shared too often. When I've just hit one of your groups by mistake.
Oh, I'll have to get one of my mods in there and get rid of it.
That's all right. The one that I accidentally went into was the Truth Beyond.
That's fine.
Here comes our Nicky boy. So right. So I'm just going to quickly run through the comments again. Hi Eric. Hi Stephanie. Hi Richard. I nearly said Rachel. Hi Rita. Hi Kelly. R.I.P. Cliff. You're sadly missed and loved you so much. We miss him and all more than that, you know. Hi Annette. Wayne. Still can't believe Cliff is gone. Hey Lynn. Hey Kate.
Hey Kate.
Same here. No one. Right, I'm going to start the night by reading something. And it was a poem that Wayne found for me today because I wanted to read one for Cliff. And it says, "Death is not the end, nor the final word. Death is a separation temporarily unheard. Death has no power to keep apart. A love forged so deeply in a person's heart. Death creates a veil and shields us from view, but death can do nothing to disconnect me from you." Now I wrote a wee something for Cliff. I've got, sorry my voice is gone. I've got 1,000 words at how I could describe Cliff, but if I lived another 100 years I could not put them together because there couldn't be enough words to describe how amazing Cliff was. He poured so much knowledge into podcasts, paranormal, history, anything Cliff could turn his hand to. When I came to Simply Spooky and started my own podcast, Cliff would come in and always comment, or he would PM me books to read. I can remember Cliff once saying to me, "Sharing knowledge is good and helps us to understand." He even supported me by sending me books for the crime show. We even spoke about Alistair Cowley and Boleskine House. Before I knew where I was, Cliff pulled up the map of the area. It totally blew my mind. What I looked ages for, Cliff found in a matter of minutes. I can't even begin to show appreciation of what Cliff has done for me in my shows. Well, Mr. Jones, I hope spiritually you're with us and you're watching the show somewhere and know how much you mean to us. Thank you so much for what you've done, Cliff. And it's so sad because Cliff wasn't just a viewer. Cliff was my friend, and Cliff was like family. Whatever I needed, that man would get day for me. And the last conversation, oh, Nicholas, where are you again? Is that internet? Whatever I needed, like Cliff would come up with. And the last conversation I had with Cliff, we were talking about the M caves in the Kenny Beach case. And he made sure that he sent me a video. And honestly, the man was just an amazing human being. And it's so sad. It really is so sad. And it's even more sadder for obviously his family. Now, tonight and tomorrow night, there will be a two-parter for Cliff because he not only did my show like tonight, but he was always there on a Friday night. So we will be talking about history. What about you guys? Would you like to pay your tribute?
I think Cliff used to pop on a lot of shows. I mean, he was on a lot of mine. He came onto the Dark Mirror show on a Monday night. And then near enough every other Sunday, whenever I did a live feed on the Spook and Ori group, he'd always pop in there, and he even went as far as actually entering a story into the 6th anniversary competition that I did. Wrote a short story which he entered, and then literally within days of him sending it to me, he passed, and it sort of took a while for me to get over that. It's to have it come up in an email or on the messenger, and you see it and you think to yourself, oh my word, this, and it was a really great story, and it was brilliant.
It was quite funny because he had me.
Sorry?
They had me as a character and he killed me. He killed me. I've never even managed to dig him up for that.
And he messaged me a couple of times saying, do you reckon this title's okay? And I'm like, that's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter. The first title he gave was a bit strange. And I said to him, do you want to alter the title just a little bit? Because it doesn't sound right with the story. So he altered the title and then resent the whole thing again. And I'm like, all we had to do was change the title, and it was, I read the story and both me and Ellen said, it's a brilliant story. And then shortly after we found out he passed, and I'm like, what do I do now? So as a result of that, we ended up picking a winner, and we're going to do a special tribute on the Spook and Ori group as well to Cliff, where we're actually going to read his story out. And I've got to get in touch with his wife and see about maybe rewriting what he put, rewriting his story and actually putting it into a book.
Oh wow, that would be really, really lovely. That would be really lovely. I'm going to quickly, because the comments are flying in tonight. So guys, if we miss some of the comments, it's because if you are having a bit of a conversation, so don't be offended. Share to Cliff's own Paranormal Teams page. Thank you, Wenda. That really means a lot. Thanks. Right, so Derek says Cliff was a good friend and a fantastic historian. Cliff was truly a fantastic man. Going, he still miss him so much. Most definitely, thank you. Yeah, he was very, very modest. That's what I will say to you about him. Definitely was. It was sad. Hi, Jeanette. Kelly says he was on hours as well. He was a fantastic man to talk to. Makes you laugh. He'd be sadly missed. Hi, Mr. Southey. Will be. That will be lovely. Got to know Cliff around 10 plus years ago when we started a paranormal team. Kate says that's lovely, Wayne. Kelly says that sounds amazing, Wayne, and Cliff was a great storyteller too. Right, Nick, what about yourself, sweetheart? Nick?
He's frozen.
He's frozen. Wonderful man. He certainly was, guys, and I am so overwhelmed by the amount of people. That will be a great tribute to a lovely person. God bless Cliff. And I'm so overwhelmed by the amount of people that's in the chat and that's watching just now. I'm really overwhelmed. He was a big part of everybody's life, I think, and a really big part of the podcasting community. And I picked a topic. Well, I'll wait till Nick comes in case Nick wants to say anything. Hiya, Nick.
I'm sorry, I'm having connection issues. I'm gonna switch to
I'm going to kid on that. I know exactly what you said there, but yeah, that's absolutely fine, darling. Come back soon. Derek says he's all do the history for my team. Thinking of Ellen and his family and friends, definitely without a doubt. He was really good. Derek, anything that I needed, he went to the lens. I mean, as I said, that night we had done that's fine, honey. That night that we had me and Ian on Frighteners had spoke about Alistair Cowley, and me and Cliff started talking about Alistair Cowley and Wolskin House, and I said my theories, he said his theories, because I was talking about the Jimmy Page, and how Wolskin House had a fire before Alistair Cowley, and then with Alistair Cowley it had a fire, and then with Jimmy Page it had a fire. So I gave Cliff my views. I said it must be something there to cause all these fires. So Cliff was, giving me what his theories were and that. And the next thing, before I knew where I was, Cliff had this map pulled up. And I was like, oh, wow. And I said to him, definitely you are going to be my historian, because he pulled it up for me. And it was good to have that conversation with him about all sorts. And it wasn't just, as I said, it wasn't just focused on history. It was other things as well. The Ghost of Mess and I. Lynn says, Cliff often popped into Shadows and Light podcast. He was very supportive. He really, really was. Greg Coss says, hello everyone. Hi, hello, Wayne, Nick. Chase that UFO. Unfortunately, I didn't know Cliff, but he sounds like a top man, very honourable man. Oh, Richard, honestly, was very, very knowledgeable. Fantastic singer. Oh, wow. I didn't know he could sing. Kelly says, when we found out about his passing was a truly sad day for everyone. He'll definitely be sadly missed. He'll be watching down on all of us, thinking of Ellen and her family. And it was really, really nice of Ellen to obviously let us do this tribute night. It was really, really nice there. So, going into history, what would you like to speak about, Mr. Wayne? I'll let you go first because I've did all the talking. You be like, shut up, Lois.
Put me on the spot. Put me on the spot. The last I heard, we were going to be talking about the Victorian times, and then everything went upside down. So,
oh, we can talk about what we want. Screw it. Cliff would be laughing at us right now. He'd be like, make up your mind.
Do you know what? He probably would be, actually. He'd probably be sitting up there going, hang on a minute. You've come on this and you don't know what you're going to talk about.
As long as it's history based, who cares?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, myself, I mean, I love anything to do with World War II. but I'm slowly starting to come into World War One as well.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm sure I've chatted with Cliff about this before, and he's referred me to certain documentaries regards to World War Two, and things like the World War Two in colour, things like that, which are readily available on Amazon. And I go through all of those films, and I'm sitting there watching them all, and it's amazing how much information you can soak up if you've got yourself in the right frame of mind for watching it. It is amazing, and I think the reason why I've gone I'm heading towards more World War One is because of the connection between the First World War and the Second World War. Believe there is a connection between the two, so I'm sort of slowly watching more World War One documentaries. But you certainly put me on the spot, because I thought we were going into Victorian times. So it sort of threw me off a bit, because of I'm not too genned up on that sort of era.
Well, do you know what? We'll just go Victorian and we'll settle Victorian.
Victorian is fine.
I can hear Cliff up there laughing at us.
I mean, the closest I can get is I remember the Zulu War,
Mm-hmm.
and the Napoleonic War, obviously, and the American Civil War in North America as well. So it Napoleonic Wars for me were quite a weird one, because I've actually investigated in places that were built. Harrods Redoubt Fort in Essex was built in 1810, specifically as a coastal defence battery during the Napoleonic Wars. So it was pretty quite good. But plenty of wars in the 1800s, none that involved us for quite some time, until about Tedbury's War, which went on for 8 years, according to this. Yeah. Apparently it was an actual was in Botany Bay, 1780 to 1810. Also known as Tidbury and Chidborough, was a Daruga Aboriginal Australian involved in frequent acts of resistance to British colonists in the early years of New South Wales. He was the son of noted warrior and rebel Pumulwai. And he was captured in 1805 and tried before the magistrates at Parramatta, Reverend Samuel Marsden. He was released at the behest of Aboriginal Australians who had participated in the capture of Mosquito. I really call that a war. Strange, but apparently it was. It kicked a lot of things off. And that was that was all because of the British Empire, but that went from 1802 to 1810. So it's something to do with the obviously the empire spanning its hands across the globe, and obviously with the Australians there, it pushed the Aborigines back. See if I can find a nice American one. There's an American one. There we are.
Right. I'll quickly run through the comments. Cliff loved his. Wenda says that. I hope you're pronouncing your name right, Wenda. Cliff loved his old time maps. Derek, you have to listen to him singing. I would love to. I'm not going to go through the go-betweens. Hello, John Paul. Hi, Chloe. Hey. Wenda says, Bug belly laughs from Cliff. Thank you, John Paul. That would be brilliant. Wenda says he also loved his chocolate cake, was a private joke in our team whilst we were out, and Cliff was at home. I can actually imagine. Chloe's asking, have you ever been to the Imperial War Museum in London?
Yeah. I also am a regular visitor to Duxford as well, in the Imperial War Museum, Duxford. I have an annual pass, so we go up there quite a few times a year.
Oh, that's nice. Rita says, when you go down rabbit holes sometimes. Stephanie says, certainly knew his knowledge was the crime and war during the Victorian era. Sorry. Wenda, he always backed his knowledge up with written facts. Crimean War, yes. Wenda, I said Wenda right, I'm proud because usually I can't pronounce names worth it. Wenda says Cliff enjoyed a good museum too, enjoyed that whole medical museum we used. That's so nice. That is so nice. Right, Nick, to bring you up to speed, we're doing Victorian times. Me and Wayne were going back and forth about it, so we're doing Victorian times.
Well, for starters, I was just going to say, for starters, sorry I kept going in and out several times. I was having connection issues as usual with the other computer, so I had to come down and use the laptop instead. But so now I shouldn't be having that issue.
Would you like to pay tribute to Cliff?
So I'm not always really good with those type of speeches, but I'll try my absolute best. Is that I will say some things will be a little bit similar to what Wayne had just said too, which, I like how he was certainly a loyal follower of ours. Not only, again, just for this show, but many of our shows, including my personal show, Nick Files. So that goes that he was a real follower, and that he was able to, dedicate his time just to listen. I mean, to watch our shows, or even if he couldn't, he could at least listen to them. Either way, he was always interacting with us in some way, shape, or form. So, don't get me wrong, we're always grateful for everybody who's tuned into these shows, but Cliff really put his time in, and I cannot thank him enough for all the times that he was watching our shows and giving that loyalty, for lack of a better term. So, it's still hard to believe that he's gone. But I'm hoping that at the same time, even in the afterlife, he's still watching. Exactly. And I say that, you guys know all this, I say this all the time, for whether it's a paranormal investigator or someone who's just a supporter and likes this stuff, just has the interest. All I got to say for Cliff, as I've said for many of our paranormal folks who've passed, now you can finally find all the answers we've been looking for.
Well, they better send them to me. You better transport them down this way so you can tell that Scottish lassie. But it's a really, really sad one.
Yeah.
So sorry, Wayne. Carry on, my love. Shut up, Lois.
Well, I was
bye.
Obviously, because we have Nick, and then usually we have Rosie as well. So I thought I would stick an American something in from history, and I've just found this one, which I find quite interesting, as I knew about the Barbary Wars, but was unsure about where the Barbary Wars were. And now looking upon this, these are very. I knew nothing about these, but it was basically the Ottoman Empire and the Moroccans against, wait for it, Sweden, Sicily, and the United States. And unfortunately, United States, Sweden, and Sicily got it handed to them on a plate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically, the end result was the Americans wanted a peace treaty, and they had to pay a ransom, The Tripolitania ships were allowed to inspect all American vessels that going into the area, and they had to and free enough prisoners of American ships. So the Americans had actually called for a peace treaty. A lot of it's strange because when you look at how the forces of either side were involved, you had 5 ships in the first squadron. This is the American side. First ships in the first squadron, 7 in the second, 2, 4, 8 in the third, 3 in the Swedish Royal Navy, and then William Eaton's invasion had 8 US Marines, 3 midshipmen, and several civilians, along with 500 Greek and Arab mercenaries. Literally went against various cruisers, 11 to 20 gunboats, and 4,000 soldiers. And that was it.
Wow.
Wow.
And when you think of it, you know, when you're doing a trade route, anything can happen on that trade route because they've got to pass through somebody else's territory. And if they disagree with you coming through, you really shouldn't be arguing with them.
Yeah.
Because
No.
they're the ones that are in control of that area. So you just have to go with what they ask, do what you can, or you trade somewhere else. Unfortunately, they found the hard way that if they want something, they'll have it and they'll stop you from doing what you want to do. And it was all about the commerce and trading in that area. But it was originally the president, Thomas Jefferson, he refused to pay the tribute to start off with. And in the end, the peace treaty was signed.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Wenda says that he will send us the answers. Stephanie says he loved his castle's histories, especially his Sandal Castle. Hi Sarah Louise. I'm going to take this, and I know this is a big grey area, and I do apologise, but I'm going to take it from a religion and science point of view in the Victorian era. Because most of the Victorians then were Christian. The Anglican castles, because I seen Stephanie say castles, churches of England, Wales and Ireland were the state churches, of which monarchy was the head and dominated the religious landscape, even though the majority of Welsh and Irish people were members of other churches. The Church of Scotland, there was some religious diversity, as Britain also was home to other non-Anglican Protestants, notably Methodists, Roman Catholics, Jews, Muslims, Hindu, and there was even a few atheists. Even though their faith, Victorians made and appreciated the developments in science. I guess the best known Victorian scientific development is the theory of evolution, which is always credited to Charles Darwin. But versions of it were developed by early thinkers as well. And Victorians were also fascinated. Hi, Wayne. He was also fascinated by the discipline of psychology and by the physics of energy. So I found that out. I was quite proud of myself. Wenda says he loved his churches too, and he had his favourite ones. If you guys name the favourite ones, I can always talk about them as well. Hi, Wayne. Hi, Felix. Hi, Kelly. How you doing? So yeah, I mean the Victorian era, I must admit, is like I'm fascinated with, and I'm fascinated for so many different reasons. And I think the most thing that I found quite interesting was, and I know this sounds morbid and God rest MD, but I was quite shocked that in Victorian times, if somebody died, you could get a picture with them and they looked so alive. It was unreal. And I only discovered this when I was watching, believe it or not, lo and behold, TikTok. So TikTok was talking about disturbing pictures with backstories. And it was this husband and wife, and the wife looked perfect, but I discovered that she died. It was like she was dead, and then I read about it, and lo and behold, in Victorian times, if someone passed away, you could actually have a photo taken with them. And I thought that was a bit creepy, but I thought it was quite good as well. So when I went, I wanted to look at obviously nobody likes to talk about the government and politics, so I kind of dodged that one, because that's usually the grey area as well. But I looked at the culture and art in the Victorian times, and what I discovered was that more access to British cultural products became more important. Not only did they reveal much about the society from which they emerged, but during the Victorian period, Britain was the cultural capital of the English-speaking world, including the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Victorian performance and print culture were rich and varied. So you had a blend of melodrama and mortality. The theatre thrived melodrama, which featured evil villains, heroes, the interesting plots, was the most important and the most popular genre early on. Later, even drama became popular. Even more popular was music halls, which featured varied programs of singing, dancing, sketches, and more of these emerged in the 1850s. By the 1870s, there was hundreds across Britain. Some seated thousands of people. Music halls attracted people of all classes, so it didn't matter whether you were low class, middle class, high class. Print culture was also large and diverse, aided by high literacy rates. There was hundreds of magazines, newspapers that were available at even cheaper prices than what you get them now, by the way, may I add. The 1800s also saw the emergence of the new journalism, which drew in readers with pieces on violent crimes, scandals in high society. So if you were having an affair with wee Jimmy down the road, you couldn't hide that sort of thing. So novels were another key feature of Victorian print culture. By mid-century, all the Britons of all classes could afford and read novels. Some were aimed at the highly educated and the well-off people. The other less educated readers, sorry, if you can hear scratching in the background, that's my cat. She's a wee witch. So looking at obviously the less educated readers, looking for appealing and exciting stories. Seeing that the best work of Wilkie Collins thrilled the readers. Victorian novels were often quite long, with complicated plots, often centred on marriages. Surprise, surprise. I wonder how many divorce rates were in the Victorian days. And many characters, especially those by Charles Dickens, are actually still read today. Now, I've got to admit, I myself really like Charles Dickens. So there was obviously how obviously during the Victorian times and when it was obviously talking with novels, you had to kind of watch because it focused on rural lower class and its open treatment of sexuality and religion. So yeah. So I've bored you with all my stuff. Wait till I see where we are. I've kind of lost where I am. Wenda says, I remember him wanting to go to his favourite local church. We went on a weekday night. It was the bells ringing practice night. He didn't live that down for a while. Oh, so sorry to hear that, Kelly. Wenda says one of his favourite churches was St Peter's Church in Kirkford in Wakeford, his hometown. I'll need to have a look at that one, Wenda. Stephanie says the one that stands out had musk balls and church walls. St Helens, it's Wakefield. Wenda says post-mortem pictures are so fascinating. I'm on a few groups about them. What to do, Wenda, is could you send me the link, please? Because I'm quite fascinated with things like that. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kelly. Hi, Nigel. Wenda says Cliff once provided the transport on a cat rescue mission for me and often asked how the cat was afterwards. Oh, bless. I do, I love animals. Right, I'm going to shut up now. Right, Nick, I'll give you a word in edgeways.
So, oh, wait, just before I do, Joanne just shut up. Hey, Joanne.
Hey, Joanne.
So, it's kind of a little bit hard to describe it. You know, the fact that you guys were just talking about, like, you know, for the Victorian era in this matter. There's just something very unique about that era in particular than other eras. I'm not sure what it is because obviously not necessarily in this part of where I live, but in some other areas throughout Chicago, there's a lot of rather historic neighborhoods and areas. There's probably the fact closest one I can think of is we got a town called Wilmette, which is just only about like 20 minutes away from just about 20 minutes away from here. And they have a lot of those Victorian style houses. There's just something so unique about these houses that you see that, you know, obviously you just don't see anything like that anymore. You just don't. And that's, as I would probably put, sometimes one of the eras I wish I could have lived through just to see what life in general was like for the most part. So you want to just hear, well, my maternal grandmother was born in 1897, so my mother was brought up with Victorian values. So was I. My grandmother was very strict. Only speak when you're spoken to. Children should be seen and not heard. Don't be contradictive. But all my family knew how to grow food, sew, cook, ate, do, meant. I've passed this knowledge on to my children and grandchildren. We can do anything. So this Victorian value has helped us survive, and my future generations will also do the same.
I remember Miss R saying Cliff's in the fridge again. But
excuse me.
But the Victorian era, I must admit, if I had to pick an era, it would probably be Victorian. And we all know the case that's the biggest case in the Victorian era, which is
a suitcase,
electricity,
Jack the Ripper.
Oh, of course.
So I'm giving Wayne. I don't even know what to say. I am trying to content myself and no sale. But you can be close enough. Close enough. When does it always remember Miss R calling Wayne batty chicken shit too? Yeah, Lynn, you're on the ball. These two are sleeping. Yeah, Jack the Ripper being the most fascinating case. I must admit, in the crime world, Jack the Ripper is the most fascinating case ever. Until this day, you know, it's the most spoke about case, and there is still people out there trying to solve it. It will never ever be solved. It will never ever be solved. And there is a gentleman that I would love to be on my show, is a gentleman called Russell Edwards, who wrote a book about Jack the Ripper. He would be really good for the show as well. But oh my god, well, Stephanie says he loved Jack the Ripper. Miss R had a good mouth on her when she wanted to. So Jack the Ripper was an interesting case, definitely. But there's so much that's happened during the Victorian era. When you look at Queen Victoria herself, she took the crown in June 20th, 1837, at the age of 18 years old. She was the granddaughter of King George III. Her father died when she was just 8 months old, and her 3 uncles also died, putting her actually first in line as heir to the throne. An estimated 400,000 people was in the streets of London the day for her coronation in Westminster Abbey. I do apologise, my speech tonight's quite there, but it's because I've been obviously hyped up about this show and worried about how...
Lewis, stop coming out with excuses. It's even my teeth, right?
You said...
Lois.
Yes.
You're like me. You've put the wrong teeth in.
Wait a minute to get the falsers out. Do you know Cliff would laugh at me because I couldn't pronounce some of my words? I bet he's sitting up there going, that daft bugger, look at her. Aye, Robert. But yeah, there's so much that's happened. I mean, even he would be Wenda. He'd be laughing at me right now because do you know what, guys? I put so much pressure on myself to make this perfect that when that night happens, I get myself all giddy and I end up my speech goes blah 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 blah. So the fact that you are still here and can understand me, I'm happy with. It's not an empty bar yet. In May 8th, 1938, the People's Charter, the result of a Chartism protest movement happened. It calls for a more democratic system, including 6 points. The right to vote for men aged 21 and older, no property qualification to run for parliament, annual elections, equal representation, payment for members of parliament, and vote by secret ballot. So there's a different time and era in the Victorian time. Lois, stop putting your finger in mouth. Rita, don't you tell everybody I do that. Thanks very much, Sarah Louise. He would, Wenda, he would definitely tell me to get a grip of myself. Get a hold of yourself, woman. But yeah. So what about you guys? Did you find anything else?
I'm actually kind of still looking myself. That's why I haven't really been focusing on the comments to see what I can find that'd be interesting to speak about. So I'm still kind of on the search right now.
I was looking into suspects of Jack the Ripper.
Oh,
because I had heard at one point that there was they originally suspected a doctor or an aristocrat. Only I never knew who the aristocrat was that they'd named. But apparently, one of the people that the police did investigate, three of them are quite shockers, actually. Prince Albert Victor.
Really?
Yeah. What the artist Walter Sickert, and none other than the author Lewis Carroll.
Really?
Seriously? That's a shocker.
They were three suspects, everyone alive at the same time, and is now long dead, were all thought to be living in that area at the time, were all sort of looked at as suspects.
Oh, wow.
That's nuts.
Oh, wow.
When you look at the Ripper murders, it was how he was able to do what he did and get away so fast that no one had suspected him. You know, it was almost as if he'd got clothes that vanished once he committed the crime. You know, they just disappeared into thin air, and he blended in with the rest of the people without any problems. You know, and some of these murders, obviously, they were done late at night, and there might not have been that many people around. But to be able to just disappear like that quickly, and still, 140 years later, nobody is still none the wiser at who committed those crimes.
But did they not at one point suspect there was a woman involved? That it was a woman that had done these crimes? Because it was, you know what it's like with conspiracy theories. They'll look at all sorts, they'll look at everything, but at one point they thought it was a woman that was actually involved.
Right.
So she would have been Jackie the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper and Associates.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't be surprising if there was somebody involved. I mean, could it have been quite possibly that a partner in crime could have lured these people into the area for him to murder? So it could have been an associate. The associate then, once Jack the Ripper had got hold of this person, the other person can disappear and get out the way. And maybe they took it in turns. You know, one day one person brings the person to the area, the murder's committed, and then the next time round swaps around the other way. Because we've got no set person on who to suspect. You know, it could have been anybody, and it could have been more than one person, because we haven't got a suspect in the first place.
The thing about it as well, what makes Jack the Ripper even more so callous, and I do believe that it was callous. It was callous and calculated.
Yeah.
Now, he's not going to target somebody of high class. Now, don't want him to get offended when I say this, right? Because it's too easy. So he went for the lower class, typically women that worked as prostitutes, who lived in slums. Their throats were slit. Sorry for the graphic details. The throats were cut. The abdominal area, there was mutilations. There was removement, internal organs. Now, this is what makes me think that the person was selling the body parts, because obviously 3 of the victims he done it to. And that makes me think that he was maybe selling. Well, now I'm being a wee bit sexist, because it could have been male, it could have been female, right?
Yeah.
That killed, obviously, these people. So obviously it happens around the world sometimes as well, believe it or not, where organs are cut and sold on the black market. Whether we like it or whether we don't, it happens.
It does.
So obviously that which makes me wonder. There was rumours though that the murders were connected, intensified in the September and October 1888. Numerous letters went to Scotland Yard from individuals kid knowing that they were the murderer. The name Jack the Ripper originated in the Dear Boss letter written by an individual claiming to be the murderer, which was obviously debunked by the press. The letter is widely believed to be a hoax and may have been written by journalists to heighten interest in the story and increase their newspaper circulations. Excuse me. The From Hell letter received by George Lust of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee came with half a preserved human kidney, and it was supposed to be taken from one of the victims. The public came increasingly to believe in the existence of a single serial killer known as Jack the Ripper. But when you actually look in at that, there's so much to it. And as you say, the suspects were just... I would have never believed that people like Lewis Carroll was blamed for, obviously, the murders. I mean, of course, of like the Whitechapel murders, the police used papers, you had other individuals with the letters. In some of the letters, there was hundreds of them. And 3 of those ones were the Dear Boss letter. The one that really stuck out to the police was the Dear Boss letter, the Sausage Jack postcard, and the From Hell letter. And as I said, I'll break it down looking at the 3 letters. So the Dear Boss, that was dated for the 25th of September and postmarked the 27th of September 1888. And that was received that day by the Central News Agency and was forwarded to Scotland Yard on the 29th of September. Why my birthday? Initially, it was considered a hoax, but when Edo's was found 3 days later after the letter's postmark with a section of one ear cut from her body, the promise of the author to clip the lady's ear off gained attention. Now, this person's ear appears to have been nicked by the killer during his attack, and the letter writer's threat to send the ears to the police were never carried out. And you just think, oh my God, the Sausage Jack's postcard was postmarked the 1st of October 1888 and was again received by the same place. The handwriting, when they put them in comparison, were similar and mentioned the murders committed on the 30th of September, when the author refers to by writing double event this time. It's actually been argued that the postcard was posted before the murders, and it made it unlikely that a crank would hold such knowledge of a crime. However, it was postmarked more than 24 hours after the killings had occurred. So there's a definitely toss up in that one. The From Hell letter, obviously the handwriting and the style is unlike that of the Dear Boss and the Sausage Jack, which the letter came in a small box which was given to Lust. Discovered half of a human kidney preserved in spirits of wine. Now, the left kidney had been removed by the killer. The writer claimed that he fried and ate the missing kidney half. I do apologise for my graphic description, guys. There's a disagreement over the kidney. Some contend that it belonged to one person, whilst others argued it was a macabre practical joke. The kidney actually was examined by Openshaw of the London Hospital, who determined that it was human and it was from the left side, but he could not determine any other biological characteristics. So that was open for discussion as well. It definitely is Wenda. Lynn says there's been so many documentaries about Jack the Ripper. One even said the man who was doing the cutting up went to America. They need to check American deaths. Yes. Stephanie says he knew his medical surgery, etc. So it seems to go to the Freemasons. It was linked to Queen Victoria, I believe. Wenda says prostitutes were easy prey. One of the documentaries named somebody connected to the Masons. Hiya, Tony. Still happening. Why did they stop so suddenly? It's easy. He moved out the area, or he could pass it. People say that it could have stopped because he moved out the area. It could be a number of reasons. It could have moved out the area. It could have passed away any time.
Maybe someone
You
could
just
have
don't know.
or even better yet, maybe someone may have identified who it was, like maybe see the last murder in action, chased them to an alley, and could have beaten him to death or killed him that himself. So you never know.
The problem is if you're a serial killer, you commit one murder, that heightens security. People are going to be more aware of their surroundings. They're going to be more watchful, and they're going to be looking out more. Then a second person gets killed. The security then gets bigger. People are more and more aware of what's going on around them.
Yeah.
They don't go out at night. Then the third murder happens. Then the fourth murder happens. You would have a total blackout of anybody being on the streets at night time because they'd be too scared to go out in case they got murdered. So could he have thought to himself, right, I've committed 5 murders. It's almost nigh impossible to go outside anymore because everybody's too scared to come out. I'll stop and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's typical for serial killers that they might kill a few people in a few areas before eventually moving on. I mean, even the slasher movies have sometimes demonstrated that, where they say that you want to. There was actually I'm surprised we haven't talked. We'll have to talk about it at some point on another episode of the show. There's a movie out there actually that almost tells you that kind of thing. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that movie. It's one of the darkest movies ever made. Called Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Came out in the mid to late 80s, which was based on the real-life serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, who claimed to have murdered well over 100 or more people, mainly back in the 70s. But in the film, Henry is played by Michael Rooker, if I'm saying his name correctly, who later starred in a lot of movies, including as well as TV shows like The Walking Dead. He plays this killer, and he tells this other friend who's based on his real life, Henry's real life sidekick, if you will, named Otis. And he talks about how you're supposed to murder people, how you're supposed to do it. And they also say, and there's one part of the film that says you want to commit these murders as cleanly as possible, so that way you'll throw the police off their tracks. And if you kill them a different way, the police then don't know what to think. They'll think you're 3 or 4 different people, but they also say, too, that you also don't want to stay in the area for too long because most likely law enforcement will eventually catch up and eventually will realize that they got a serial killer on their hands. So it's possible that maybe Jack may have still wanted to kill, but knew he was probably going to be he knew his guard was probably starting to let down, and he probably knew law enforcement was probably not going to be too far from his trail to catch up. So it's possible he could have just moved on and committed another series of murders elsewhere that even still to this day, that either they can't connect with, or there may have been bodies that, to this day that they'll never find.
I'm going to quickly run through the comments because they're building. One makes you think about the person who wrote the letter. If he was poor, he probably couldn't read or write. Hey, Felix. Right. Stephanie says that it's just a conversation. Yep. Sarah Louise, she says the police had their ear to the ground. Wenda says the film From Hell was a good film about Jack the Ripper. Wenda says get away with it once and it lures you into a false sense of security to carry on to commit more. Stephanie says, I remember Nicky Stone Medium saying he was a lady called Annie Chapman in a past life. Cliff's wife Ellen and myself went to cinema. Oh, Wenda, you need to definitely come see me. Speak to me about it. I love anything like that. Saying he was a lady. Oh wow, Stephanie, that's quite a serious one. But it is an interesting case, and you've got to think back then they didn't have what we have now in the 21st century with the stuff like with DNA, forensic science. It's all, so far advanced now, but there's still a lot they could improve on. But it is more far advanced than what it would be back then. Back then, it wasn't, I'm the same. I love serial killers. Really, I do. I don't mean I love what they do, by the way. I know how terrible that may sound.
Right.
But I'm not saying I totally love what they do, but I'm very big in them. So, yeah, going back to Jack the Ripper, back then they had nothing. They didn't have what we had today. What you've got to ask yourself is, and what I would ask MD is, would today's forensic science be able to solve back then? I don't think so, because there's just the evidence is all gone.
Right.
And I think back then Jack the Ripper's been very, very clever, and I could quite believe that they used like things like gloves, so there was no fingerprints. But it is fascinating how a man or woman or people could commit such a crime and get away with it and not be even found out to this day.
Right, yeah.
Oh, Tom, there's Tom.
Wait, which?
Tom Pickle.
Oh, Pickle Tom.
Yes, read that. He definitely was too clean. Robert, he picked women of the night because they were easy targets, plus they wouldn't be missed. This is very true. It's sad reality, Robert, but very true. Potty mouth for free spirit. Usually it's me that's been potty mouth, Wayne, but I've been really, really good tonight. I've not said a bad word. Cliff would be very proud of me, actually, that I've not said a bad word or I've not gave the middle finger. But that's tomorrow night show that I usually it's a Friday night I give the middle finger to one of my hosts. I do. I was speaking to him on the phone actually earlier on. Tom says, I never ever say bad words, not me. I don't believe you, Tom. Don't you, Tom?
Yeah, I don't
tell me lies.
I don't believe that either, especially since you turned yourself into a pickle. I know you've been swearing a lot.
But Cliff would tell us off for being too potty mouth. I could believe. But do you know what, guys? It's been a really, really good show, and I am so proud of how it's went tonight. And as I said, guys, there will be a second part tomorrow night. Because obviously I do 2 podcasts, so I want both sides to do it on both sides. So I will make that advertisement for tomorrow night. Wenda, is it okay if I PM you the link for tomorrow, the advertisement, and if you want to put it on Cliff's group, please? Because again, I welcome every one of you to come tomorrow night and pay your tributes if you can, or come and watch at least. Fantastic, Wenda. I will drop you a request after the show. But definitely, it's been a really good one, guys. We've been really good. We've behaved ourselves.
Yeah, we did.
So proud. I'm so proud.
Can I throw a huge spanner in the works?
Oh, I love when you put spanners in what's. I hope it's none of your case nonsense.
Briefcase.
All right.
No. You've forgotten the one other Jack that was very famous during them times as well.
Oh, right. Throw the working mass banner. Sarah Louise, we're not disappearing yet.
Back
She's
in
saying good night. Good night, lovey.
Back in 1837 in London and then later throughout the United Kingdom was Spring-Heeled Jack.
I knew you were going to bring that up. Spring-Heeled Jack, yes.
Gotcha.
Very bizarre. Although not supposedly reported for committing murders, but
No yet, Sarah Louise.
he was responsible for of many sightings that scared a lot of people. But there are many theories about the nature and the identity of Spring-Heeled Jack. It's now classed as an urban legend, but as we know, a lot of legends do bear some truth.
Right.
In some shape or form. But it was very popular in its time, and due to the tales of his bizarre appearance and ability to make extraordinary leaps, to the point that he became the topic of several works of fiction. Spring-Heeled Jack was described by people who claim to have seen him as having terrifying and frightful appearance with diabolical physiology, clawed hands, and eyes that resembled the red balls of fire. One report claimed that beneath a black cloak, he wore a helmet and a tight-fitting white garment like an oilskin. Many stories also mention a devil-like aspect. Others said he was tall and thin, with the appearance of a gentleman. Several reports mentioned that he could breathe out blue and white flames and that he wore sharp metallic claws at his fingertips. At least 2 people claimed that he was able to speak comprehensible English.
That's right. Yeah. There was one report I remember. I think one of them actually said, one person also said that they heard this horrible laughter that he gave off. So yeah, I know. I think the one major feature about him is these unusual abilities to leap very high and long distances.
Yeah, I mean the thing was, it was the history of it. In the early 19th century, there were reports of ghosts that stalked the streets of London. Yep. These human-like figures were described as pale, and it was believed that they stalked and preyed on lone pedestrians. The stories told of these figures formed part of a distinct ghost tradition in London, which some writers have argued formed the foundation of the later legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. The most important of these early entities was the Hammersmith ghost, which in 1803 and 1804 was reported in Hammersmith on the western fringes of London. It would later reappear in 1824. Another apparition, the Southampton ghost, was also reported as assaulting individuals in the night. This particular spirit bore many of the characteristics of Spring-Heeled Jack and was reported as jumping over houses and being over 10 foot tall.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds almost the exact, very similar description of Spring-Heeled Jack.
But then you go further in, according to much later accounts, in October 1837, a girl by the name of Mary Stevens was walking to Lavender Hill, where she was working as a servant. After visiting her parents in Battersea, on her way through Clapham Common, a strange figure leapt at her from a dark alley. After immobilizing her with the tight grip of his arms, he began to kiss her face, while ripping her clothes and touching her flesh with his claws, which were, according to her deposition, cold and clammy as those of a corpse. In panic, the girl screamed, making the attacker quickly flee from the scene. The commotion brought several residents who immediately launched a search for the aggressor, but he could not be found. The next day, the leaping character is said to have chosen a very different victim near Mary Stevens's home, inaugurating a method that would reappear in later reports. He jumped in the way of a passing carriage, causing the coachman to lose control, crash, and severely injure himself. Several witnesses claimed that he escaped by jumping over a 9-foot-high wall while cackling with a high-pitched, ringing laughter.
Yep.
Gradually, the news of the strange character spread, and soon the press and the public gave him the name Spring-Heeled Jack.
Hey, Joe.
Oh. Hey, Joe. Happy birthday, Joe.
Yes,
Yeah,
happy
birthday.
Happy birthday. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a wee happy birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joe. Happy birthday to you. And I can't sing worth a shit, I know. Cliff would be proud. No, Sarah Louise, the Cray twins, don't get me started. I've not even got enough hours left in my show to talk about the Crays. But I will be doing the Crays at some point, Wenda, and when I do the Crays, I will drop you a message. I did drop you a friend's request. That's me. She said, I'm sure there's a gin called Spring-Heeled Jack too. He would jump over the walls. He also looked like a werewolf. The best killers are the ones that got away with it. There's so many, Robert. Dick Turpin is my favourite. Do you know, Stephanie, see when you say Dick Turpin, do you know all I could think of is the Carry On movies in St James? It's the body snatchers from Scotland. It's Birkenhead in Edinburgh. Wenda says, we had John Nevison Highway was being chased by the law and came off his horse on Chantry Bridge and he jumped into the River Calder, never to be seen again. Oh, wow. The body snatchers were just a job to steal the body and get paid. It was the body parts that they were more interested in. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Joe. Just seen it came through. Cool, Wenda.
Here's a question I got to ask real quick, because this makes me kind of wonder too, very similar, like, in this case with Jack the Ripper, in this case with Spring-Heeled Jack, the sightings and encounters only occurred in such a rather short period. I often wonder what made the sightings stop as quickly as they began, in this case with Spring-Heeled Jack.
Yeah, I mean, according to a lot of the articles that I'm looking at, he went up and down the country. He didn't just stick to London.
Right.
He went to various parts of the UK, including the Midlands and Scotland. So he travelled about a bit. So again, could this be somebody of good standing?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to travel all around the UK, he would have had some money behind him, or he would have had to have walked everywhere or hitched a lift. But
yeah, I mean, even with those giant leaps that he makes, I mean, even if that was, let's say, his means of transportation, that's still not going to get you very far. It might cover you a couple 100 feet, but you still got a long distance away before you can get to where you want to go if you're using that type of transportation.
Yeah, I think the last report of Spring-Heeled Jack was in 1872.
Oh, really?
Into
I didn't realize it went that
1873.
far.
So you're looking at sightings from 1837 to 1873.
So almost 45 years.
Yeah. Jack the Ripper wasn't around for that long.
Yeah, there was.
Well,
I actually came across a website that it was obviously debunked very quickly that supposedly some people had said that Spring-Heeled Jack was Jack the Ripper's spirit returning from revenge, which that would make the least bit of sense, because obviously, as we all know, Spring-Heeled Jack, like you just said, Wayne, happened from the 1830s to the 1870s. Jack the Ripper in this case wasn't until the late 1880s. So that would
that makes it sound like Chucky. Like Chucky can play.
I've got to hold that thought now, because I've actually discovered that the official last report of Spring-Heeled Jack was, can we place any bets?
Stephanie. Reminds me of Edward Scissorhands.
He knocked a woman's door. When she opened the door, he tore at her blouse with a knife with fingers. He then framed him away. Spring Heel Jack, not be confused with Cotton Eye Joe. Tom. Lynn's death in 1857. I bet you she's looked it up.
Well, no, we said it started in 1837, and then Wayne said till 1873. You said 1872 or 83? Let's go 73.
I did say 1873, but it goes
okay,
a lot.
So Lynn is a little bit behind, so it sounds like it's a later time.
Right, I'll tell you what. Is it 1893?
Nope.
Is it somewhere in the
beyond that?
Beyond that.
Oh, wait.
1912?
No, I was gonna say I think I might know.
No, that's too far. 1912.
I was gonna say I think I might know. It might actually, if I'm correct, I think it was sometime in the early 1900s. Definitely before 1910. So when I'm
1903.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go with either 1904 or 1905.
Oh, you can only have one.
1904?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got it!
What?
The
Do you know what? I felt like a bidding war there.
I was right. You missed just by a year. Well,
He-
you're
Fallen.
and
He
when
was
Lynn just
last-
said 1904, that was before she even said it.
he was last seen, and by the end of the 19th century, the reported sightings of Spring Hill Jack were moving towards the northwest of England. Around 1888 in Everton, up the Blues, North Liverpool, he allegedly appeared on the rooftop of St. Francis Xavier's Church in Salisbury Street. Then in 1904, there were reports of an appearance in nearby William Henry Street.
Oh, wow.
So he'd been all over the place because in 1877 he was seen in Lincoln.
Wasn't there also a story about an angry mob that once tried chasing him or something like that? I thought there was even like there was a story that supposedly an angry mob actually had tracked Spring Hill Jack and was chasing him down, but obviously with his extraordinary leaps, he was able to evade them very quickly. I think there was even a story that supposedly they were actually able to corner him in an alley to the point where they thought he couldn't escape. But once again, he just leaped out of sight and disappeared into the night.
I'm a bit concerned by what I've just found.
What's that?
Lord Ernest Hamilton's 1922 memoir, 40 Years On, mentions the Aldershot appearances of Spring Hill Jack. However, he says that they occurred in the winter of 1879 after his regiment, the 60th Rifles, had moved to Aldershot, and that similar appearances had occurred when the regiment was barracked in Colchester in the winter of 1878.
Oh, wow.
I live in Colchester. I've lived in Colchester for 49 years, and I have never, ever heard of Spring Hill Jack being seen in Colchester.
Wow. Check that out.
See? Well, you learn something new every day during this show.
However,
sorry for you.
I personally think it was me that was Spring Hill Jack, because I can remember walking out of a pub once after playing darts with Ellen. We walked back to a car park, and I'm sure I must have been Spring Hill Jack, because I found a curb and I flew. I tripped on this curb and I went flying, and I must have flown about 10 foot. So it could have been me.
He started off about 4 meters behind me, and I'm just walking with my phone like this. It should have been me that tripped, and next thing I know, he's just gone.
So we've got a very own Spring Hill Jack. It could have been you.
You know.
Exactly. Learning every day, each and every day, definitely, Stephanie. And as I said, it doesn't matter whether it's paranormal, whether it's crime, whether it's history, whether it's anything, you always learn. And I will always stand by what Cliff told me, which I put in my wee thing. And that was about him saying to me, sharing knowledge is good and helps us to understand. And it's so, so true. believe me, there's things that when I research to do the crime show, there's research to do paranormal. There is a lot of things that I shock myself with when I speak to people like Wayne, Nick, Mark Manley, people like that. They shock me every day because I learn so much. Like, I just love doing these shows, and I've got a great passion for podcasting. And do you know what? My viewers, you guys make it well worth my while. Honestly, you really do. Every day's a school day without a shadow of doubt. And Wenda, you're definitely right. Knowledge is king. Well, guys, I'm going to talk about my favourite novelist because Charles Dickens. Because I really love Charles. Okay, sorry. My favourite novelist is Wayne Seaton. He was born in 1812.
The check's in the post.
What can I say? But yeah, you're my favourite. This is the first time I've watched a podcast. Oh my God, Wenda. Oh, that I feel really honoured. I always like it when I'm the first. I hope that I've not emotionally scarred you off a podcast and you will watch them again.
Yeah, you've got to come onto the Dark Mirror radio show on a Monday night. It's even worse than this.
Oh God, yeah. I totally agree with it. Stephanie says, I might be bad with my phone. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Bible, but my head's always in books. Do you know what? I love Charles Dickens. I really do. I love these books. Even when I was younger, my favourite one, and I'll tell you, I love the film as well, is Oliver Twist. But the only film that I like Oliver Twist is the one with Oliver Reed. Because I don't think there's quite somebody who could play a bad guy like Oliver Reed. And I mean, the 4 facts about Charles Dickens that I know. He worked in a factory from the age of 12. He actually published under a different name. He wrote his first novel when he was 24. He wrote A Christmas Carol within 6 weeks. And he actually championed women's access to opportunity. But he's wrote really dead good books, and I can always remember my gran, God rest her soul. She'll be sitting up there telling Cliff, listen to her yak on. She loved David Copperfield, and I can always remember it being on the telly because I think they did it was like a drama on the BBC. David Copperfield, and my gran used to love to sit and watching it. Honestly, the film was brilliant. Done lots of pods. It's fantastic. I absolutely love doing podcasting. I wished I'd actually discovered this ages ago. Wenda says, I worked in motor trade for 30 years. I'm not shocked easily, and I can probably learn you swear. Believe me, Wenda, I don't need that sort of learning word. Lynn says Oliver Reed was amazing. He was. Charles Dickens was proper classics. Lynn says, I have the original Great Expectations film. The films is seriously creepy. Michaela says, me too. Yep. But he, Charles Dickens.
Just a second. I'll be right back.
Are you cooking again, Nicholas?
No, I'm just gonna get myself some water quickly.
I was going to say,
right.
These beans would have burnt to the bottom of the pan by now.
I know I'm 25 minutes in, so Charles Dickens, he was born on the 17th of February 1812. He was an English novelist and a social critic who created some of the world's best known fictional characters and is regarded many as the greatest novelist of the Victorian era. His works are popular even in the 20th century. He's known as a literate genius. His novels and short stories are still widely read even to today. He was born in Portsmouth. He left school at age 12 to work in a boot blacking factory when his father John was taken to prison. After 3 years, he returned to school before beginning his career as a journalist. He edited a weekly journal for 20 years, wrote 15 novels, 5 novels, hundreds of short stories and non-fiction articles. Dickens' success began with the 1836 The Pickwick Papers. And he was amazing. The Christmas Carol even remains especially popular today. He's wrote really, really good books, honest to God. The Bronte sisters Stephanie loved that. So yeah.
Did you know that Charles Dickens was responsible for starting the tradition of reading ghost stories on Christmas Eve?
Oh, so was that your inspiration? For everybody that doesn't know who Wayne is, Wayne has a podcast every Sunday called Spook and Laurie. And when it comes to Christmas Eve, Wayne always reads a story. Definitely check him out, guys.
Yes, and last Christmas I actually had Nick on board with me as well on the live, and we read, I think it was 3 ghost stories on Christmas Eve. That was the second year that I'd done the live, so I'll be doing obviously the same thing every year. I want to try and bring that tradition back and sort of put it out into the social media a little bit more.
Definitely. It's probably really, really, I mean, I love ghost stories. I really, really do. And I love sitting just reading. I could sit and read for hours. Even though I'm dyslexic, believe it or not. Don't get me wrong, it takes me a while to read. But I still see once I can get engrossed in a book, that's me. I am away. It's like literally trying to get me to move. Even with films, I am murder. See, once I find
I'll read my new one then.
Why will I not move?
What I'm thinking of doing is I'm thinking of putting either a pack of Kleenex or a towel free with each copy, because it's going to make you cry.
Oh, please don't. I cry enough these days without having a book that makes me cry.
Unfortunately, it's a sad ghost story.
Oh, no. No, thank you. I'll read any other your stories, but no sad stories.
I say it's sad. For most of the book, it's not, but it will be. The end has got a very weird twist that will sort of make you go, "Oh, bless." So.
Oh, I know. The word Pickwick conjuncts up versions of the portly man with breeches and the hat. I didn't even know that.
It's like the roller, wasn't it? With the big pointy nose.
Yeah. But you know, I wondered often, like, what made him write the Christmas Carol, and do you know, it is my favourite story. Is a Christmas
I wonder
Carol.
that as well, because Charles Dickens wasn't too keen on spiritualism. He didn't believe in ghosts. So to write a story like A Christmas Carol, when Jacob Marley visits and then the 3 ghosts visit, You know, he's mentioned 4 ghosts in one story, and yet he
Mhm.
never believed in ghosts or spiritualism.
Well, believe it or not, Dickens was actually involved. My hair's doing me not in, guys. It looked like I've been dragged through a bush. Dickens was actually involved in charities and he retained very much social issues throughout his entire life. And at the time he actually wrote A Christmas Carol, he was concerned with improving children's lives who had turned to crime and delinquents in order to survive. He wanted to improve their life. Dickens, as well as others, though, thought that education could provide a way to a better life for these children. The Ragged School movement put these ideas into action. The schools provided free education for children in the inner city. The movement got its name from the way that the children attended the school, the way they were dressed, because they often wore tattered clothes or ragged clothes. In September of 1843, Dickens actually visited the Field Lane Ragged School. In a letter to his friend, he described what he saw in the school, and this is, when I'm reading this is Dickens' words, not mine. I have very seldom seen, in all the strange and dreadful things I have seen in London and elsewhere, anything so shocking as the dire neglect of soul and body exhibited in these children. And though I know and am as sure as it is possible for one to be of anything which has not happened, that in the progress, misery, and ignorance of the swarming masses of mankind in England, the seed of its certain ruin are sown. And that's what he actually wrote to somebody about what he saw in the school. And the Christmas Carol's broken into 5 different stave. And a stave is the 5 lines that music's written on. So using the term staves instead of chapters stresses the link that A Christmas Carol has with the hopeful music of the holidays, if you didn't know that one. So stave 1 of A Christmas Carol. So stave 1 sets the scene of A Christmas Carol, where you're introduced to obviously Scrooge and Bob Cratchit, and the ghost of Marley visits Scrooge and tells him about the 3 ghosts that are yet to come. Obviously, number 2 being the visit from the ghost of Christmas past, where he learns about Scrooge's childhood and his sister Fan. We also learn about Scrooge's fiancée Belle. The 3rd one, the ghost of Christmas present. They visit the family and Scrooge's nephew. The ghost of Christmas present also opens Scrooge's eyes to people near and far celebrating the holiday. You've got the 4th one, which is the terrifying ghost of Christmas yet to come. And then you've got the 5th one where Scrooge becomes a changed man and he's no longer Scrooge. And it's so good to see, and it does give you that hope. Well, if there is someone like that, maybe they can change when they see how the other half live and what people really think. And
Well,
it's
look at the other side of it. When you go into the modern day telling of Scrooge, if you look at the Christmas Carol and then look at Bill Murray's Scrooged,
thank you, honey.
that literally brings it into the modern era when it's a TV executive making loads of money, and he then ends up inadvertently ending up in the Christmas Carol story, but in modern times.
Right.
Oh God,
right.
I'm going to quickly run through these. Stephanie says, Braveheart got me into movies, so whatever happens in sad circumstances, I would need tissues. Oh, bless you, Stephanie. Lynn says, I think Deakins was testing his beliefs in the afterlife by writing about the tests he had put through his book. Stacey says, I don't know that about Dickens, but I have always loved A Christmas Carol, given the era makes sense. And Stacey is a good reader. And hey, Lauren.
I've been to the Ragged School. I've actually investigated in there, and it's not a nice place.
Oh my God, I can totally imagine. Totally imagine.
I was just reading through that bit that you just come out with, and a Ragged School. I've been there. I've been there a few times, and then when I checked it, it is the Ragged School that I've investigated in, and it's
Good night, Wenda.
a very
Thank
odd
you very much.
place. And I think my worst experience in there was down in the basement, and I know this may sound very similar to the Saw, but a red tricycle, moved on its own in front of about 20 people.
Yeah. Holy
It
shit.
came out of nowhere, came out of the darkness and came towards us, and we're all going, no, it's got to be a slope. It's got to be a slope. Someone's up there and just pushed it. But when we turned the torches on, there was no one up there, and this trike came all the way down the corridor.
Oh, God.
Like, that ain't right.
Yeah, I would say that would not be right at all.
You can, I mean, by actually going in the place, especially when you go into the classrooms, you can feel the oppression in these rooms, and you could feel how the children would have felt being literally under the thumb 24/7. You know, literally from the word go. The second they were in that room, the strictness of the teachers and the principal in that school, and how them children would have felt if they'd misbehaved, things like that, you know. And you can see where Charles Dickens would have then sort of gone on to say, look, you know, I don't like this no more. I'm gonna have to help try and raise awareness of these situations.
Right.
Stacey's asking, I don't want to sound... I'll come back to you in a minute, Lauren. 2 minutes, love. I don't want to sound stupid, but what and where is a raggated school? A raggated school is basically for the lower class children. It's where children would have turned up in old rags where, you know, their clothes are dirty, they could be torn. It's basically like a lower class school, Stacey. Right,
It's
Nick?
based in London, basically. It's now a museum.
Lauren's asking, Nick, did you like the painting of the Beatles and Prince that I did?
Yes. I've been meaning to get back to her about that. I'm sorry. I apologize for not getting back. Yes, that was great. I mean, obviously, I've seen her Beatles painting, and that was phenomenal. But this one she made with Prince on it was great. So, no, fantastic job, Lori. Great job.
Stephanie says, night when that, sorry, where was I? Because the comments are coming flying. Sarah Louise loved the... Oh, wow, he's at a raggated school.
That's the Ragged School.
Oh, wow. Loved the Muppets Xmas Carol. It's really good. Thank you so much, Wenda, for coming. Hi, Laura.
Right.
Okay, they really existed. They did really exist. I just want to begin to thank everybody who came the night, who made this really special for Cliff. Words can't begin to tell you how grateful and how overwhelmed at actually how many's came tonight and how many's still here. It is really overwhelming. And I really can't begin to thank you enough for that. And God bless that man's soul up there and wherever he is. I hope he's looking down and saying, see that bloody lassie? But definitely tomorrow night, guys, there will be a second part, except it won't be these two that I'm with tonight. I'll be 2 other hosts that I'm with. And I'll make it as good as what tonight's been. Definitely. And just to let everybody know, Cliff's funeral is the 19th of March at 1:30. I will be putting a post up, just writing a wee post for him. But guys, I can't honestly begin to thank you enough. We might as well, guys, push it to the. He's got another 10-15 minutes in these. I know Wayne. It looks absolutely shattered. God love his soul. I'll tell you what. I'll do another 5 minutes because Wayne, I can see sitting there. It's quite.
No, it's all right. I've just put some more sugar in my mouth, so I'm all right.
All right. So you put yourself hyperactive so we can do it. Lauren's working on Brit Roy.
Spooking Ori jelly beans.
Ah, I've got
Ori jelly beans.
if you guys could give me 2 wee seconds, I've got 2 cats that think they're going to have a Royal Rumble on my couch. Right, stop it. Oh, honestly, the 2 of them. Every time I'm on a podcast, these 2 play up. It's like having 2 kids. Stephanie says top medium's been there. What top medium? I've always and still love the Muppets. Thank you very much, Lauren. I'm actually hating my hair. It needs cut. Oh, your birthday's the 19th of March. Oh, wow. But yeah. So it's been a really, really good night. I've really, really enjoyed myself.
So I just want to go back what Lauren had just said. So she's working one of Brit Floyd. That will be interesting.
Oh wow, that will be an interesting one. Stephanie says poor Cliff sadly passed away. Oh my God, Stephanie! On Stephanie's birthday, before his wife's birthday. Oh, God bless him. It is. Do you know it really? Do you know that way when I found out, I had to double check because I thought, no, somebody's at it. I'm like, but then it made sense because I hadn't seen Cliff in my podcasts, and it made sense that he hadn't been around. But I assumed that he was busy. But when I heard the news, it was so sad. It was really, really sad. I was like, basically like a rabbit caught in headlights. My birthday was on the 18th and Ellen's birthday was on the 19th of February. Oh my God. My God, that's so sad, Stephanie. I can't imagine what yous are all going through, to be honest. I really can't. And do you know what? As I said, when I came up with this idea, I was kind of hot, like 50-50. Should I or shouldn't I? Because you get many folk who will say, oh, aye, she probably did it without the wife's permission, blah, 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 blah. But where I went and got Ellen's permission, and I've always said when I've advertised this, if anyone who doubts I went for permission can see the messages between me and Ellen. At the end of the day, I thought this would be a really lovely way to say thank you to that man for what he did for myself and what he did for the shows. And I am so, even though I never ever met him, it doesn't matter to me because there's 1,000 people that I've never met, like Nick, Wayne, Stacey, all my regulars and things like that I've never met, but I still class them as my close friends. It doesn't matter whether you're in the States, whether you're in England, whether you're in Ireland, wherever. See, as long as you're good to me, I will be good to you. And I'll still see you as friends, regardless of where you are in the world. And it doesn't matter if you've no met somebody, if you have that connection, and if you have somebody who comes onto your podcast and gives you so much time, it's only fair. You should be then giving them the time as well. And I do, for everybody that comes onto my podcast, without you guys, I wouldn't have these shows. I wouldn't have a show. A show wouldn't even exist. And that's what bugs me about, certain podcasts, that you just think to yourself, you've got to think of your viewers and all. It's good. Stephanie says, certainly is appreciated by you guys to give a tribute to Cliff. Without a shadow of doubt, Stephanie, it's the least we could do. Definitely.
Yeah, and also obviously there will be. I will be reading Cliff's story that he entered into the Spookanori writing competition on Sunday night at 10 o'clock. But I'm also going to be having a word with Ellen, asking if it's okay to have her permission to use Cliff's story to enlarge it, make it a bit bigger, because it's a very short story, and I want to turn it into a proper book. And then obviously Cliff will be there'll be a tribute to Cliff at the front before the actual story itself. But the actual story is called Echoes of Blackwood, A Descent into Mind's Labyrinth.
Oh, I like it. That sounds really cool.
Originally, when he first wrote it and sent it to me, he'd called it A Whistle from the Hills. And I went, I'm sorry, Cliff, you can't use that title. When he went, oh, why not? And I went, because that's the name of my first book. Oh my God, sorry, I am so sorry, I'll change it. And then he changed it into Echoes of Blackwood. And to be honest, that is much, much better than the other ones.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Do you know what really touches me the most about that story? It really does, and I'm not going to spoil it for MD. But what really touches me in that story, even though Cliff, you killed me off, he used me as part of it. And do you know something? Even talking about it now, and I'm trying not to bring a tear to my eye, but that really, really did touch me. Even though he killed me.
The main characters are myself, because that was one of the criteria for the competition. The main character had to be myself, but you could have anybody else in it you liked. Now, Lois is obviously in it, but so is Nick.
Really?
Yeah.
This ought to be interesting.
You really are.
We're all seasoned investigators. There's myself, Lois, you, Nick, and Eric.
Yeah.
Aye. And that just brings a tear to my eye. It really, really does, because I think to myself, oh Wally, to use me. I'm like, oh my God. And it does. It's something that even it'll stay with me. It will stay with me. What to do, Wayne, is please, after the show, is if you can put your Spookanori link in, obviously, the comments, what I could do is I could pass it on to Wenda, and Wenda could put it into, obviously, the group, so that people can come along on Sunday and definitely check that out. And definitely, please, guys, go along and check it out, because it is a good story. And know what I would love for you to do, Wayne? See, when you're doing that, if you could send me a copy.
Yeah.
Just so that I can keep it.
I'll also be sending a copy. I'll also send a copy to Ellen as well.
Aye, because it does. I'm trying not. I've been really, really good with the tears, but I'm trying not to. But I'm just thinking to myself, it's touching. It is touching. Especially when, and I know everybody will be like, yeah, the link's in already, Christ. You're a fast mover, Erwin. So definitely, speed dial. Definitely, guys, please go and check it out. So I'll finish off. I'll look at some other great show. Rita says that would be fantastic. Chanel cusses like an Irish sailor. I've been really good tonight. I've not effed and jeffed. Stephanie says certainly was Cliff Jones. He was, without a shadow of a doubt. My God, I've actually know 2 ways to cuss. Chinese and Polish. Well, seeing I know the swear words in a different language, but guys, again, thank you so much. I cannot begin to thank yous for coming and making this night so special for Cliff. I want to thank my two hosts that have come on tonight and put the best efforts and please, thank you very much, guys. I do appreciate you. Obviously, Rosie can't be here because of weather,
Yeah, severe weather.
weather-wise, because it is wild.
Yeah, they're getting slammed pretty hard, which is of course, you have to remember, it's no surprise the least bit. I mean, in fact, she lives in Oklahoma, and obviously Oklahoma is the heart of Tornado Alley, so they're going to get a lot of severe weather, and it is kind of close to spring anyway. So this is around the time where you start seeing a lot of that severe weather, particularly in that part of the country. So hopefully she's doing okay. Although she did say she was pretty excited to see this happen. Again, people who live in Oklahoma, they're used to that kind of stuff.
They definitely are. Right, before we go, because Wayne just loves to rattle through the thing. Right, so tomorrow night's Cliff again. Right, Saturday, Sunday, apart from Spooking Ori and Sunday night, anything happening Saturday?
No, I'm off to where is it? Streatham. Oh, I don't know. Streatham Steam Engine Museum in Ely on Saturday night. Going out there on a recce and doing a little investigation until 1 o'clock in the morning to see what's there, see if anything wants to come out and have fun. And then hopefully going back again later on in the year to film for Truth Beyond Paranormal.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
What about Monday? What are you guys talking about? Aliens!
Aliens! Yes. Aliens and conspiracy theories and basically going off on a tangent in weird directions and down rabbit holes and up in the clouds. And a few shock realizations about the story behind the Anunnaki and the Nephilim.
Oh,
which
that'll
I
be a good
know
one.
about before, which I am quite surprised about.
Oh, be very good. It will be very good. I mean, you're very welcome one night, Sarah Louise. I've heard that, but the weather's periodically, it does go nuts, Stacey. Thank you for tonight. God bless and good night, guys. Good night, Stephanie. Thank you very much for coming, my darling. Right, guys, we will wrap it up here and I will see you tomorrow night for part 2. Hopefully my voice doesn't sound too husky. But I definitely will be there. Fantastic, we'll be listening in. Good night, everyone, and good night, Cliff.
I'll see you guys